Welcome to the Marvel Evolution Show. Myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And I'm Monty Harry.
And it's good to have you back, Monty. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Great to be here as always. I love catching up with you guys. Looking forward to another great episode.
Well, we couldn't have a Black Panther Wakanda Forever review episode without asking you along. So
appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no, that's all good. So if you're wondering why Monty's here, anybody that's listening or watching, that's exactly why Monty's here, because we are going to talk about Wakanda Forever today. We've all seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, now's the time to probably switch off. We're not going to get
spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, we're not going to get stuck straight into Wakanda Forever right this very second. We're going to go through some sort of the pleasantries and a little bit of news about the MCU. So you can probably stick around for the next sort of 15, 20 minutes. And obviously, whenever we are about to divulge any huge information about Wakanda Forever, we'll give you a fair warning. But this is your warning at the top of the show. Alex, how are you?
Good. I actually just saw this movie last night. And so it took me a little while to absorb it, after seeing it. It's a very powerful film. So been kind of taking the day to absorb it a little bit more, think about it.
Nice. Jaren, how are you?
Doing good, but for some reason the chat's not here today. So what's going on with that?
Oh, man in the chair. We'll let you crack on.
Oh, it's coming in, but I just can't chat out, it seems. Oh, well.
Okay. All right. Well, we can see stuff. Well, like I said, pleasantries. I've just found a new brother in regards to watching the Defenders saga. Corey on our group is almost at the exact same point as I am in a rewatch of the Defenders saga. But he said to me just a moment ago, he said, "Oh, but we're watching a couple of episodes a night." And I'm like, I'm never going to keep up with that.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm kind of sporadically on it. My fiance, Brittany, hasn't seen all of the Netflix Marvel stuff. So we're just at the end of Defenders and we're trying to get through to Daredevil 3 and then Punisher and all that. So,
yeah, that's it. Well, that's kind of the same as why I rewatched it all, because I'd watched chunks of it and then little bits of it, and then missed out bits of it, and I want to just go back through it and watch it all properly again. So that's where I'm at.
It's great, and it holds up really well. So
yeah. No, I'm looking forward to. Well, I'm enjoying watching it. So, yeah, that's great. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I know that Jamie C asked what we was all going to be doing on in the gap now between now and Quantum Mania, because we seem to have a 3-month gap before any more MCU content. So I said that amongst reading Death of Doctor Strange and trying to read The Reckoning War, that's what I'm going to be doing, filling my time with the Defenders saga.
Well, nobody rushed out to watch Iron Fist. I mean,
yeah, I will still do it though. I will still do it. And there's Jamie now, as if by magic. Jamie turns up. I was just talking about her.
Yeah, Rocky says, "Good to have you, Monty," and then
Thanks,
Jimmy
Roxy.
says, "Hi, Monty. Great to see you there." So,
oh, look how popular Monty is. So Jaren, we're going to get into some news. So what have we got?
First thing, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse news. They're adding Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk, also known as Hobart Hobie Brown, to the film. And there's been a lot of rumors too that we're going to see Tom Holland Spider-Man in the film as well. So interesting to see if it's going to be him voicing it, or if they're going to use the voice actor from What If possibly, or how they're going to work that out. Speaking of Tom Holland Spider-Man, there's a rumor that he has a new contract with Sony and Marvel. There's no details on it, but the rumor is another trilogy.
Yeah, I've heard as many as almost 5 or 6.
Yeah,
in the rumor mill, which is strange because Kevin Feige kind of came out and said he was kind of against that a while ago, but at the same time, the Sony situation makes it a little bit more unique. So he might be the only one signed on for so many pictures, not everyone else.
Yeah, appearances, that kind of stuff. So yeah,
correct. That'd make it in about 50 years' time. I feel like the Sony situation would be a great movie. Do you know what I mean? Just titled The Sony Situation.
That's Guess pretty brilliant, actually. Yeah.
Give them some time to work the kinks out, you know.
I look back on the catastrophe that was the Sony situation.
Mhm.
We have some Eternals 2 news. Kumail Nanjiani has spoken and he says, I have no idea. I don't think Patton was right. That's Patton Oswalt about the lines about Pip the Troll and the sequel stuff. He says, I think there was a hoax website, one of those where it's like one letter off from the real one. They tweeted it and it spread around. And I think that's what Patton saw. So, yeah, there's still no word on Eternals 2. So we'll see what happens here. Oh, Jimmy Smith's in the chat.
Ah,
Speaking of the Sony situation, Disney just need to give Sony what they want so we get a King on the Black storyline. Yes, I agree.
yeah, King Black would be awesome.
But yeah, but speaking of Eternals 2, there's no word or anything. All the actors are kind of in the dark. So yeah, nothing there yet.
Yeah, it doesn't help that that's the lowest rated Rotten Tomatoes score Phase 4 movie, so it's gonna be tough.
And they left us with a cliffhanger, you know,
Yeah.
like so they got to do something there.
I hope so too. I mean, I enjoyed it, but a lot of people
I did
not.
too.
So did
No,
I.
love it, so.
I enjoyed it as well. I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but I did enjoy it. But I think that it was a lot different from a Marvel movie, wasn't it? You know, it wasn't really a typical Marvel movie.
Correct.
That doesn't mean it wasn't good.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean it's not got a place in the MCU. That's not what I mean. But I think that, you know, when people go and watch a Marvel movie, they kind of expect something, don't they? And don't think they got what they expected, and that's probably why it wasn't as popular. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think they
A little bit
also
more dramatic and serious.
I think they also missed the opportunity when we talk about Wakanda Forever to make a link there, and I'll talk about that. Ryan Reynolds news, so some Deadpool stuff. He talks about complications with X-Men in the MCU. He said it's not like adding Hugh Jackman to a movie like this is a hard sell. It's an either immediate and empathic, unqualified yes. It's a lot of moving parts and Fox and X-Men and all that kind of stuff that Marvel needs to sort through. A lot of red tape in order to make that happen, and they did it. And I'm really grateful they did it because for me, working with Hugh was a dream come true. But working with Logan and having Logan and Wade together in a movie is beyond any dream I would ever be audacious enough to have. So I'm really, really super effing excited to do this film. So,
Yeah.
He also went on to talk about Deadpool 3. Production will start before summer of 2023 and filming in your neck of the woods in the UK, Andy.
Yeah, a lot of stunning. I just found out actually that and just digressing over to Star Wars at the minute, that there was a lot of episode 7 of Andor that was recorded about 2 seconds away from where I used to work in London.
Nice.
So yeah, it was one of the like sort of living complexes. But yeah, it's nice when you see things like that. You go, I know that place. I know Monty gets that all the time, being in New York.
Yeah. New York
best-
City, man.
Yeah,
You walk down the street, you get hit with Thor's hammer. You know what I mean? It's like, you know.
The best we can manage over here is some woods somewhere. There's the woods that was used in Age of Ultron, and there's the woods that were used in Black Widow, or the woods that were used in Thor. But yeah, as we know, when we had Tom Duke on from Stepping Through Film, you know, talked a lot about the woods and those kind of wooded areas over here. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they filmed Deadpool.
He also noted that he only fully revealed that the film's plot to Jackman after he agreed to return, and he can't wait to unleash the movie to the audience. There's also a rumor that Owen Wilson will reportedly reprise his role as Mobius. I almost said Morbius. Mobius from Loki and Deadpool 3 will have a big role, but it won't just be Mobius of the TVA. It will be the TVA also in this movie. So this sounds like they're going to be possibly some incursions and some time traveling and other things where this can make an issue.
I'm telling you, it's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, do you remember when we saw the timekeepers as well? It literally looked like the scene from Bill and Ted when he go and sees the timekeepers. I'm telling you, this is going to be like one big spoof of Bill and Ted. You got Logan and Wade, and then Mobius is going to be the Rufus character, and he's just going to be like, he's going to be taking them through the different multiverses. He's going to be their guide through the multiverse as they try and rescue as many incursed X-Men or Fantastic Four, whoever from everywhere.
And Deadpool 2 ends with him literally going back in time with that time travel device, changing events.
Time.
So like him changing events, like they're definitely coming for him, like.
It was that. Did you see the little meme that I posted on the group about 10 minutes ago? It was Sixth Sense. And Haley Joel Osment was sitting there in the bed going, I see Deadpool. And then Bruce Willis's character goes, do you mean dead people? And he goes, no, Deadpool. He's right behind you. In the next scene.
Oh, that's great.
He also another rumor states too that Ryan Reynolds has plans to revisit the other Fox franchises in Deadpool 3, including the original Fantastic Four from 2005. And
man.
even some of the cast potentially being in the film.
So Chris Evans as the Human Torch, that would be fantastic.
The main one was
sorry, can you imagine his full break on that one when he sort of looks at Chris Evans and looks back at the screen and goes, wait a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
The biggest one though I've seen so far is Mr. Fantastic. Ian Grufford, yes, being in there. Moving on to Agatha, agent of Coven of Chaos. Eric Andre and Sashir Zamita joined in Underscrolls roles. Zamata is expected to have a reoccurring role in the series, while Andre is said to only appear in one episode. What is Jimmy saying here from the chat about Deadpool? TVA could be replacing L&L from one of his early stories.
Who's L? I'm not sure who that is.
If he elaborates, I'll put, I'm drawing a blank there. Other news, and this is what Alex asked me about earlier. Aubrey Plaza being cast in the series, likely as the primary antagonist that Agatha will go up against. Joe Locke, Alion, and Maria Diza have been added to the cast, with the latter two playing magic users of some sort. Now, the rumor was Aubrey Plaza at first, but she actually spoke and said why she joined, so it is confirmed that she's in the series. She says, I haven't talked about it yet. It's a fun character. I'll just say, speaking of manifestations, it's all coming together for me with this part. Catherine Hahn, she's a friend of mine. I've known her for years. We shared a couple moments on screen in Parks and Recreation 10 years ago, but I've never gotten to work with her really. She's one of the most incredible actresses that's working today. She's a friend of mine. She speaks my language. To be able to get on screen with her and go toe to toe with her is what's driving me. I think it's cool that it's Marvel and all that, but I'm really just interested to work with Catherine Hahn. So there you go. She is in this series and confirmed it herself after all the rumors.
Okay, cool. Be interesting to see who she plays.
Yeah, there is a rumor. It says a report about that she could be the villain. According to the report, the series, never mind, that's something different. Next rumor. Remember we talked about Jake Locke last week? About him joining the cast. He is playing Billy Kaplan, is the rumor, and / a different version of Wiccan who shares a soul with Billy Maximoff. The report also said that Maria Diza has been cast as a Jewish woman in a recurring role that is being paired with a Jewish man of the same age. While Diza's casting is not new news, she had been reported by the trades of playing one of the several witches who are expected to be associated with Khan's title character. So it sounds like this is Rebecca and Jeff Kaplan, Billy Kaplan's parents in this casting. So it definitely looks like we're going to get an older version of Wiccan in this series. Jimmy Smith reports back here from his thing. Lando, Lookman, and Lake, they believed he was the Mithras to save the world. They were so, that's right, similar to the TVA. Okay, I see what you're going with now.
Okay.
Thank you, Jamie.
Still not familiar with them, but thank you for clearing that up, Jay.
Furthermore, there's a villain report too as well, possibly. The series is looking to cast a female to portray a strong, evil, and ancient soul in a recurring supporting role. The character is described as having a chilling effect simply through her presence, and that the studio is looking for actresses with previous experience with motion capture who also have either stunt or dance experience. And honestly, this rings out as Morgan Le Fay. This description. So something to keep an eye on for the villain in Agatha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess they could always do something like Lilith too.
Yep.
If they chose to go that route as well.
I'm interested to see who Aubrey Plaza ends up playing too. Will she be a friend or a foe? What role will she have in the series?
The motion capture makes me think Mistress Death possibly too. It's just CGI and having to wear a lot of prosthetics or whatever. That could be that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to Daredevil news. It will shoot on location in New York starting in February 2023 and lasting until the year's end in December. So it looks like they're filming all 18 episodes possibly at one shot.
Wow.
If they're filming for the
That's a long bit of film.
Right outside my house.
Yeah, I know.
Almost the entire year filming it.
Wow.
So, some Disney Plus news. Disney added Plus added 12.1 million subscribers. Miss Marvel highlighted as a contributor in that report.
Well, I suppose that brought a load of new people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Demographic.
Which is exactly what they wanted. That was the whole
course.
point of that, of that offering. So,
But what's that now
kudos to them.
about? How many is that now? About 140 million people, 104 million subs they've got? A billion? No, million. Can't be billion.
Netflix is shaking in their boots, though. That's all I know.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was going through my sort of subscriptions the other day, and I was looking. We've got Prime, we've got Netflix, we've got Disney Plus, and we've got Sky TV. And I was sitting there. We use Prime quite a lot because delivery service and things like that, and music. And obviously we use Disney Plus a lot. And I'm looking at Netflix now, thinking, do you know what? I don't use it as much as I used to. There's not so much stuff on there now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I watch mostly true crime stuff on Netflix. That's about it. Bob Chapek did talk about Disney Plus growth. He said the rapid growth of Disney Plus in just 3 years since launch is a direct result of our strategic decision to invest heavily in creating incredible content and rolling out the service internationally. And we expect our DTC operating losses to narrow going forward. And that Disney Plus will achieve profitability in fiscal 2024. So right now they're basically breaking even right now for the most part.
That's crazy. That fast? That's insane.
I'm still amazed. Well, not amazed, but I think the timing of the Disney Plus launch, it just couldn't. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but if I had to blame, if somebody said Disney were to blame for COVID, I wouldn't have been surprised because it was just perfect, wasn't it? That was released in February, March 2020. And then we was all told we weren't allowed to go out for the next 6 months. And it's like, oh, well, here we go. We've got loads of content that you can watch on this new platform that we just so happen to have just brought out. Like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. That's ridiculous. I'm fully aware of that. But I mean, what amazing timing. Yeah, what amazing timing.
It's luck, but what they say, luck is preparation meets timing.
Yeah.
So, when you have everything all ready to go and you can kind of pick your spots. They could have probably done it whenever they wanted, but then they were, all right, everyone's home, pull that trigger.
And do you remember back when they first released it and everyone was moaning about the fact that they weren't, there was no fresh content on there. Oh, this is all stuff that we've seen before. Yeah, all right. It's only the first couple of months. Give it, a year and you'll see great stuff. And we did. So,
Hey, Monty, guess what?
Yeah.
Buffalo just lost in overtime.
Wow.
Allen threw an end zone interception.
So that's the Dolphins are in first place.
Yep. And the Jets are still chugging along. So
let's go. Go Jets.
Going on about the statement, assuming we do not see a meaningful shift in economic climate, by realigning our cost and realizing the benefits of price increases in our Disney Plus ad-supported tier coming December 8th, we believe we'll be on the path to achieve a profitable streaming business that will drive the continued growth and generate shareholder value into the future. So,
sorry, what was that little bit there? The ad-supported tier?
Yep, they're having an ad-supported tier launched December 8th.
I almost dropped my laptop on that one.
So shocked. Okay, so hold on. So they're going to add adverts to their service.
A lower tier with ads.
As in, you're going to have to pay extra now to not
have ads.
I think what they're going to do is they're adding a lower end tier that's cheaper, that's going to have ads, not change what they have in, because I think they've already raised prices already on the current service.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
So everyone's doing it. Netflix is doing it. Everyone's doing it now.
Disney owns Hulu, don't they?
Yep.
Isn't that what Hulu does?
That's what Hulu does.
Yeah. And then Jamie goes, I think Amazon Prime has it now here as well. So
yeah, I think they might do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to Secret Wars, Kevin Feige did address the director. He said, well, I would want Ryan to do anything at any time. Ryan Coogler, because he's been the buzz about doing it. at any time because he's a singular talent and a great person to spend years with. But no, in all honesty, there have been no conversation. We've not spoken to him about Secret Wars, which is interesting when we get to some Wakanda stuff because it sounds like there's some multiple Wakanda projects in the works, and along with Ironheart, that his production company is handling. So I could see why he's not going to be doing Secret Wars because he'll be busy doing other things for Marvel.
I like Wakanda Forever, and I like Ryan Coogler, but I don't think he's got what Secret Wars needs.
From world building and visuals, I could see him do it, but he might have to be paired with a strong writer for that, as to do that, to bring the whole story together. Chris Evans news. Chris Evans did speak about playing Captain America and said he misses playing Captain America. They're challenging, but the beauty is movies are great. You get out what you put in. It's been a wonderful, very symbiotic relationship. So I've been thrilled to do it. I think when the movies end, you're very happy to have a break, but very quickly you miss it. I miss it now, but yeah, I'm very grateful. I'm very happy to have been a part of them, which it sounds like he's open to coming back, which I agree with Andy has said in the past. Don't do anything until Secret Wars.
Yeah, definitely. Don't need him back. Not in a minute.
Coming here from Roxy about the flag comments, Secret Wars and Kugler. Yes, we need more Wakanda, which I agree.
Well, the Disney Plus series is going to be on the way.
Well, there's supposed to be 2, and now there might be more. Which we'll get to that here shortly. Secret Invasion news, real quick. Rumor: Charlene Woodward will play Priscilla, Nick Fury's wife, in Agent of S.W.O.R.D.
Cool.
That's the rumor. Wonder Man rumor: Courtney Cox has reportedly had chats with Marvel to join the Wonder Man cast.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Probably
Wonder-
not
I'm-
interest.
Yeah. Do you think? How old is she now, Courtney Cox? She must be well in her
50s.
now,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's actually. Yeah, you're right. Actually,
some sort of manager or
Talent person, or
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But wasn't Bob Odenkirk supposed to be like
Yep.
rumored as her agent, or I mean, as Wonder Man's agent, or whatever?
Yeah, but she could be like a competing agent or
Yeah,
talent agency, or working with Bob Odenkirk, maybe his character. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That kind of suits. That I think that suits her quite a lot. Actually, I can see her doing that kind of role.
another rumor: Fantastic Four. They're eyeing a January 2024 production start, which is interesting because there's still no casting news. We have a director, but no casting news. So it's interesting. There's rumors floating that it's going to be starting soon.
They're going to start filming next month, basically.
Yeah.
And
2024.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's loads of time.
Yeah.
We're right.
Jimmy Cloud goes, is Wonder Man actually confirmed? Yes. They haven't really done anything official like at Disney Plus or, D23 and like that, but it is confirmed it's happening. New World Order. Nate Moore confirms production starts shooting next spring for Captain America: New World Order. And now we're gonna get into the Wakanda news. This is not the review part yet, so you can still stay. I'll just drop the spoiler warning now. So
Spoilers.
yeah, so if you're listening and you haven't seen Wakanda Forever, you don't want any spoilers, I would stop listening now. Put your earmuffs on. And then come back to this later once you've seen it. We're gonna do the news portion now of it, but we might get into parts of the movie during the news discussion.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
here we go. There are multiple Disney Plus projects planned. Ironheart will be the first spinoff, which is going to be a direct sequel of Wakanda Forever. There's going to be an Okoye Dora Milaje centric Disney Plus series, which we know about.
yes.
There's another one we don't know, but given the mid-credit scene, I think where that's going to go with that one. The other ones from the news says they would focus on characters that would be completely new. So that's interesting as well. So it sounds like we're going to begin some new faces in Wakanda and looking at some stories around them.
Yeah, I like the way that they introduced Riri, and we'll get stuck into that a little bit more. But I find that quite interesting that obviously Riri had this kind of small side part in this movie, and although T'Challa had a bigger part in Civil War, it was kind of the same, wasn't it? He had a sort of side part in Civil War, and then he was then, you know, we was introduced to him then, and then he was thrust into his own movie, and it's the same with Riri. We've been introduced to her, and now she's been thrust into her own project. You know? So it's nice that they've kind of returned the favor to another character almost, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah. Well said.
Jimmy goes Midnight Angels, which I could see that happening after what we saw in Wakanda Forever. That could also be part of the Okoye-centric series as well. Building that one.
Yes.
Yeah. Roxy goes, I need a M'Baku show so bad, which I would love to see more of M'Baku. Yeah.
Yep.
I'd love to see that. He was great.
Jamie Smith goes, Dania G is going to be busy.
She is, yeah. She's got a Walking Dead show as well that she's got to be filming, and if she's going to be filming her own Marvel show as well, she is going to be a busy person.
With Walking Dead.
The
new
Andrew
spin-off?
Andrew Lincoln and her are going to do a Rick and Michonne.
Oh, right.
Okay. Show.
Yes.
So yeah,
I did hear.
Weren't they originally going to do like a Daryl and
Carol?
Carol, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
like a spinoff of them too.
Yeah, but Melissa McBride dropped out of that. So it's now just Daryl's just Norman Reedus doing it on his own. Which, to be honest, I think would probably be better. I think we've seen enough of that pairing that we don't need to see any more of it. You know, I think their story will hopefully be done next week. And I don't think we need to see more of them. But I'm not sure. I like Norman Reedus, I do, and this is my worry about him. As I know, we've sort of spoke to him about
Tony Blaze.
Yep. Yeah, I don't. After watching him try and be, and I'm not. This is no offense to Norman Reedus at all, but watching him try and be the main focus of The Walking Dead, which they kind of have tried to make him, he just hasn't quite got that gravitas and that sort of charisma to pull off leading man. And I don't think, and again, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Norman Reedus at all, but I just don't think he's got the leading man thing about him.
And in that show, he's like your star soldier. He's not your leader, you know? Like,
well, to that point though, have you played the game Death Stranding on PS4?
No.
So it's a whole game with it's by Hideo Kojima, who's the guy who came up with Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
And to that point, I think you should check that game out before you pass judgment, because Norman Reedus is essentially the star of that game.
Okay.
That game is like deep, and he does a great job. You know, it is a video game, but I mean, he's still the main character. His voice, his likeness, cutscenes, everything like that. So it is slightly different, but even in that, I got a glimpse of him being a leading man, say, and I feel like he might be able to pull it off. Like,
yeah, I guess maybe I'm a bit blinkered by the fact that I've only seen him play Daryl in The Walking Dead. 12 years, you know.
Well, he was in Boondock Saints.
Yeah, but he was more of a co-lead. But
yeah, it was not a
yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's move on.
All right, so back to the World of Wakanda building. But Jimmy Smith says he definitely not a leading role. So from Jimmy Smith from the chat. But back to the Wakanda world building stories. Nate Moore, the producer, did discuss it. He says, beyond what happens with this film, there are more opportunities to go back to Wakanda. There are no shortage of ideas. And then said that basically the potential could exist for Coogler's Proximity Media to develop projects around those characters as well. So
it's almost like a sub world
mm-hmm.
on you know, a sub Marvel world. It's almost like created its own universe, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Kevin Feige said that this is the most important movie they've ever made regarding Wakanda Forever. All of us very much believe that this feels like the most important movie we ever made. That this is what every crew member focused on every day, and none more so than Ryan Coogler at the helm of it all. Above it all, it's a relationship movie. We'll have some incredible set pieces, but at the end of the day, I think what people are going to really remember is the conversations. How do you move forward after losing someone that meant so much to you? You have to continue their legacy. I do know that Ryan and the entire team approached this movie just like they approached the first one, which is how do we make the best experience possible for the audience? And how do we make the best experience that people will want to repeat again and again? That was the driving motivation, and something that is incredible in tribute to the legacy of Chadwick. This one rides a fine line of real life tribute and yet continuing the fictional narrative and the hope. And I just keep going back to that word, optimism, that Wakanda always represents. So, which I think that they did a fantastic job of doing that in the movie.
Yeah.
Nate Moore also talked about X-Men in relation to Wakanda. This one's an interesting statement here. Well, Storm's relationship with Wakanda in publishing is pretty interesting. Obviously, we might be a few years out from the X-Men, so I'm not sure we're there yet. Who else from Wakanda have we not introduced? I mean, there's a pretty deep bench, actually. And especially, I think, Tanishi's run, introducing a lot of key characters that would be fun to export. Even characters like Vibraxis, which are more Fantastic Four characters. But yeah, it's pretty deep bench. I think there's a lot of more stories to tell on Wakanda for sure. So we could potentially, there's been talks of a third movie, a third project. Could we see them bring Storm in that movie? Vibraxis, other characters tied to Wakanda as well. Remember, they said there's a deep bench and more stories they can tell about Wakanda and new characters.
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, spoiler alert, big thing coming up now. Just if you're not ready for it, yeah, obviously with that mid-credit scene, I can see Storm and our new prince being sort of, maybe they could even be childhood sweethearts almost.
Yep,
growing up together. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. He also talked about on Talokan and the threat of Namor. Because there's such an interesting contest between Talokan and Wakanda, that's why I think Drew Ryan as a storyteller to Namor in the first place. Obviously, there's a history in the publishing of Namor and Atlantis and the Black Panther and Wakanda being at loggerheads because they're both such powerful nations that have such autonomy. But to also tell the story of colonization through the perspective of two people we've experienced it so differently, made for a really interesting collision of ideologies. Namor's a powerful character. It's hard to think of anybody who could challenge Wakanda, right? It's the most technologically advanced nation in the world. At times, it has a Black Panther, if not the Dora Milaje. Man, what's going to scare these guys? That is a very short list, and all of a sudden, they're faced with somebody who's more powerful than anybody they have, and it forces them to respond in a different way than any other person would. Really, Namor is such an important character that you have to commit time to get to know him. So it's not like you can throw him into an ensemble and say, also this guy. You want to take time to build out that world. Hopefully, we were able to achieve that with the same love and dedication to the details that we do with Wakanda in the first movie, which I think they nailed. Talokan, Namor, everything on the head, 100% satisfaction guaranteed.
100%, 100%. From the visual to the background to, just the essence of it, like the feel of, the way they speak, the way that they kind of, their motivations. They did a fantastic job.
Yeah, my wife was making comments after the movie, and as we talked about it more, just about how they represented Latin America and, the language and even the drawing at the very end that we saw him doing on the wall, the artwork as well. She's like, it was really good, just all the things too. And it was interesting because Napita Nyong'o was actually raised in Mexico City. And actually is very fluent in Spanish. So she's a Kenyan born in Mexico City and lived there most of her life.
Oh, that's interesting. I really liked how dedicated and devoted to his people he was. He was very much, this seriousness when he spoke to, he spoke to
whoever, Ramonda.
Yeah, when he said about not telling anybody outside of Wakanda that we exist.
Yeah,
I mean, you could tell he was like, do not tell anybody we exist because, then I'm be coming for you. You don't put our people at risk like that.
Yep. Well, and Shuri establishes early on when they first meet him that he's covered in vibranium. She's like, look at him.
She
like
sees
he's
it
covered.
right away.
Yeah. She's like, he's covered in vibranium. And his argument essentially is like, you revealed yourself to the world and you made vibranium known that there's massive amounts of it. You've now jeopardized us by doing so because we also use vibranium. So it's kind of one of those, you kind of indirectly impacted our people kind of
right.
On the mid-credit scene, he talked about pretty early on, there was always the end of the movie pretty much since Chad's passing. I think the first draft we got that in there, and the notion of the character introduced in that scene actually predated Chad's passing, to be quite honest. We always liked the idea that, and he goes, yeah, but it was repurposed thematically once Chad passed. So it sounds like that mid-credit scene was always going to be there, but they just changed it up a little bit after Chad's passing to kind of address that in the story. He says, and hopefully it feels like renewal after a time of adversity. So, a couple more things, and we're done with the news. The next one will be Coogler talked about M'Baku in the first film. He says, I'll say that, Winston's not here, but M'Baku wasn't in this movie more than he was in the first Black Panther. I think probably like a 2-to-1 ratio. He probably has twice as many scenes and he has had in the first one. And so he's there, and which makes sense because they actually changed his contract before this film released and added more scenes with him. And I think the arc that he's had from the very beginning, where we saw him challenge Chadwick and call out Shuri for being technology in the hands of a child, to at the end of that being allies to fight against the border tribe in Wakanda or in Killmonger, to what we saw in Infinity War, and then seeing the role he took in Wakanda Forever. I also wonder what role he took during the snap as well, because it does sound like he's risen as a leader, and we know by the end, spoiler alert, he's the king now of Wakanda by the end of the movie, because Shuri doesn't want to challenge him. There's no challenger to challenge him for it. So his arc, and I can't wait to see what they go with him doing forward.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to see what they do with M'Baku. I will say though that, the 2-to-1 ratio, it didn't feel like it. And that for me is kind of a point in this movie. Like I wanted to see significantly more M'Baku in this movie than we actually did. I wanted him to be a little bit more of a pivotal kind of role. Like he's kind of relegated a little bit, half comic relief, half necessary plot, pivot point kind of, it's just like fighting for his screen time there in a few different roles in a few different areas. And I really would have rather see him be a little more of a mainstay and a little bit more featured. He is in all the like big parts, like the main battle and stuff like that. But I don't know, I don't know if it's just me, but I just felt like I just didn't see as much as I wanted to.
Yeah, I think that was also, I think that for me, I agree, but I didn't think that going into the movie. I thought that as I saw him in the movie, it was one of those, it was a little bit Heath Ledger Joker type situations for me, where when you see him, you're like, I want to see more of that. Can you show me another scene with him in it? And then as you go on through the movie, you're just like, can you bring him back into it, please? Because I want to see him again. Like I just keep wanting to see this person.
It felt organic though. It didn't feel forced, but it left you. It didn't feel forced, but it left you wanting more.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, that is a good way to put it. But I thought he took the role of a mentor quite a lot as well. In that there was 2 or 3 conversations that he had with Shuri where he was totally the mentor in that situation. Not necessarily the alpha as such, or the leader, but a mentor, 100%.
Yeah, almost like older brother, almost like a surrogate older brother to her in some ways.
I feel like he's kind of like almost like the backbone of Wakanda, because you think about it, in the first Black Panther movie, he provided like support to the royal family when they had nowhere to go. He was like there.
So it's twice now.
Yeah, second movie, he's like, oh wait, everybody needs to be protected. Come to the mountains, like we'll protect you.
We'll take care of you. He's kind of assuming. You remember Zuri, played by Forrest Whitaker in Black Panther 1. He's kind of assuming that role for Shuri in this iteration.
And when he's on the ground, he's the first person to dive into the water.
He dives into the
very first person. Like, so I feel like, he's kind of almost like the backbone. So it'll be one of those things where it'll be interesting if he actually takes the mantle of Black Panther, or if he's just like the king and it's like one of those, appointed type things. Like maybe Shuri is it for a little bit and then they slide back to him.
I don't want to see him as Black Panther. I want to see him as a man-ape suit.
Yeah, I want to see him have his own.
Yeah,
like make his own kind of type thing,
or get his own kind of like the Midnight Angel suits that Dora got.
Right. Which were awesome. And they really did a great job with those.
Jimmy Cloud. I definitely wanted more in Baku, and Roxy has a piece of news I was gonna get to as well, but I'll put her comment up here. Tanakh, Mabel, and Alex confirmed that the Talakaniel salute was created because Talakhan needed their own version of Wakanda Forever. Yep. Which I 100%. Yep. Which was great too, and the way they talked. So there you go with that. Coogler also, remember I told you before that Tenoch Huerta learned how to swim because of this film? Well, Coogler also learned to swim for this movie as well. He basically said, if the camera's in the water, actors in the water, I've got to be in there too. So he learned to swim as well for this movie. The film, so Riri on Ironheart and Wakanda Forever, and upcoming Ironheart. So Dominique Thorne talked about this. Or no, I'm sorry. Cougar talked about this. He says the film does such a great job of showcasing one side of who she is. We get a little taste of the colors that exist within her. We see her as a hustler. We see her as a little bit of a bully. We see her fearful. We see her in all these different lights, but primarily she is in a world of confusion. This is outside of her element and the very opposite of her comfort zone. So the Riri that we see is a bit of a fighter, or is in a bit of fight or flight mode. They're such a great place for the audience too, because by the time they get to Ironheart, they're in for a chance to sink into what she is truly, without the war of the worlds between the kingdoms of Wakanda and Talokan in the background. We get to see who she is day to day, but also get a bit more understanding of the genius that got her in the situation in the first place, which, you know, she'll be building her third suit by Ironheart series.
Yeah.
So
yeah, with that, I really felt it was like a Riri sampler plate. Like Andy, remember we went and had dinner over in London, and we ordered a whole bunch of different Greek food, and it was like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's how it was with Riri. It's like, you know, we saw her scared, we saw her, you know, brilliant, we saw her kind of bossing people around, we saw her doing all, like, building the suit, being a support to Shuri, we saw her being, you know, like flying around in the suit. We got a good little bit of everything, but they didn't do the deep dive, which obviously they didn't need to. Be similar to like what you said before about Black Panther, you know, being showcased in Civil War, and then we get the full deep dive into her shortly thereafter. So I think they're doing it right with her.
It was like a montage broken up over the film.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
A Riri montage. Cool. Everybody needs a montage.
And I felt like Riri had a lot of like scenes that were kind of comparable to Iron Man too, in a way. Like she's trapped in a cave, you know, then goes on to build her suit. I was like sitting here like watching her, and I was like, it's so funny. There's like these little tiny like similarities here. They're not like large, you know, but like there's just these little things. Like she goes back to Wakanda, she builds her suit, like everything like that. Just kind of like interesting to see what they'll do with her suit moving forward, because she leaves it in Wakanda afterwards.
Well, she didn't leave it. She didn't leave it. It was basically, it was kept in Wakanda, because Shuri said, you can't take this. You can't leave with it.
You can't take that, right?
Yeah, but I mean, she leaves it there because she can't take it. But like, you know, but like, the thing is like, she did have something before. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how that develops if she goes back and builds something more streamlined.
Yeah, it's funny. It was very much similar to Iron Man's original first Mark I, in that he built in the cave, but it was like a step up from that.
Yeah.
You know, so she built it with a little bit. So I look forward to see the next iterations of her armor, and then how she fits into Armor Wars and all that.
And there's a scene in the trailer that reminds me of an Infinity War, when Tony Stark like puts his feet together and creates like the afterburner and takes off.
Yeah.
Where it like shoots up, and she has that scene in the trailer and in the movie, of course, but like where she does like a very similar thing where she like winds up and then boom, takes off, you know?
Yep.
Real quick, if you're watching on Facebook, it looks like we're having possibly some issues with Facebook streaming today. So head over to Twitch or YouTube. So please check that out if you're having problems with the stream on Facebook. Roxy goes and Baka the best lines, which he did. You know, the bald-headed demon one was the funniest one for me when he was talking to Koi. So he has some really good lines in the film.
Yeah, glory to Hanuma.
Yeah,
like the way he's real smooth with his lines and delivery. Like I love it.
Addressing the council, eating a carrot. You know,
that was brilliant.
You know, I made a note of that. You know, that's actually a really good like little nuanced thing they threw in there, because like it seems random, right? He's eating a carrot, but no, gorillas are vegetarian.
Yep, and they are vegetarians too. Their whole tribe. Remember, he said in the first one. He's like, I'll feed to my animals. And he goes, I'm kidding. We're vegetarians. You know? So yeah.
He does say that. Yeah.
Last two things in news here. Disney awards 1 million in grants to support youth in STEM and the arts in honor of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Recipient organizations include Girls Who Code, Ghetto Film School, the Hidden Genius Project, and Donors Choose in the U.S. Chicas in Tecnologia in Argentina, and Destination Imagination in Asia Pacific. Through this support, Disney aims to empower youth to pursue careers in the arts, media, and technology, which is pretty cool that they're doing that, because they also had a viewing before the release at the at Chadwick's Foundation too as well, before the film. So they're doing a lot of stuff in the project as well. The last thing here, we have some box office numbers from this morning. It's gonna basically be 180 million opening weekend. This is the biggest November opening ever, the second best opening of 2022, the top 15 biggest openings ever at 13, the fourth best opening for a solo MCU hero title, 330 plus million worldwide opening. Ryan Coogler also becomes the first Black director with 2 films in the top 15 biggest openings ever. He is the first solo director with back-to-back openings of $180 million plus. His first 4 films are certified fresh at Rotten Tomatoes at 94%, 95%, 96%, and 84%.
Doesn't miss, basically.
Yeah, he's not missing. So,
and off a $250 million budget, that means they're going to make their money back in 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's
Crazy.
wild.
Also, the other thing too is that, like, remember I said, Andy, don't overlook the cultural aspect and the new demographic they're going to pull in with Kamala Khan and Namor and that kind of stuff. We're seeing on display right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
that's all the news.
Like we said, there was many reasons why people were going to go and see this movie.
Yeah.
Lots of reasons. And yeah, that's why it's pulled in so many different people from so many different places and interests. So yeah. Brilliant. So we've got through all the news then, so we can start. So I mean, I know we've sort of chatted about the movie as we've sort of gone through the news, but we can sort of have a little bit of a closer look at some parts of it. I just, let's go through it sort of chronologically then.
Yeah.
I just want to start at the beginning. The sort of T'Challa. First of all, the T'Challa death scene. We got that.
Well, before that though, the Marvel intro. Right.
Yeah, that was just
beautiful.
Just bone chilling. It was just like it's just silent, and like you just see it. It's like from there they set the tone immediately of, all right, this is what this is. This is a tribute. This is how this is the important. That's what you need to focus on. You know, like, because if you've ever seen compared to Game of Thrones, for example, the Red Wedding episode where like a huge massacre happened, it was the only episode where the end credits had no music. So silence is used, very strongly across media to kind of denote like, hey, this is important. You need to focus on that. We give a moment of silence to honor people who have passed on, who died, or whatever. So that from the get-go, that silent Marvel intro was just really set the tone.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it did. Yeah, like you say, I wonder whether they played music over that first, and then somebody said, try it silently. And then they did that, and then they all went, oh, actually, yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, because they did similar to Stan Lee's and Captain Marvel, but I think there was music for his though.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously we saw that sort of little clip of him dying, or not with him dying, but of the sort of
trying to save him.
I'm not sure we needed that. I think it could have gone straight into a funeral scene.
It felt,
maybe for casual viewers, they did need that.
I felt like it was foreshadowing. Like we knew that the herb was going to play a part later on in the movie. So they had to kind of give it to us.
Her journey and struggle to recreate that herb.
But it was a little, so that part to me, it was a little like kind of like rush feeling. But the main part, like I maybe I missed something, but he had the herb in his system. Like it wasn't removed from his system. And when you have the herb in your system, you have basically Captain America level, because basically Captain America, Black Panther powers are pretty much interchangeable. They are on the same level. Captain America can't even get drunk because his body processes toxins so efficiently. He's resistant. He's almost like Wolverine, not quite Wolverine, but almost like in that neighborhood in terms of resistance to disease and immunity and stuff like that. So I don't really understand the purpose of her wanting to get more herb to put in a system. Like if it was in a system, it should already be working. And if it's not working, they should have gone into that maybe a little bit more. I don't also know why they said it was an unknown kind of illness. Maybe that's a nod to the fact that Chadwick kept that very silent.
Yep. I think
in real life. But yeah, so I that part didn't hit.
They did say Shuri said something like that. She said that he kept it away from her, and then when he did finally come to her help, it was too late. She couldn't help.
Yeah.
He did say something along those lines, didn't she? But I think you might be right there, Alex. I think that's why that scene was there. I never thought about that actually, because I did sort of sit there and think, personally, I didn't need to see that. But then having said that, if somebody who didn't really know, not everybody knows who Chadwick Boseman is. We do. And everyone hopefully listening to this and watching this does. But, not everybody does know who he is. So maybe that was a nice way to kind of say actually that there is a person that's died here or a character that's died here. But moving on swiftly.
Well, I got a quick thought though on that.
Yeah.
The whole thing. The reason why they put that in there, maybe possibly the snap could have affected the herb and his ability to heal himself, and that maybe it waned off because of that. And so remember, this is post snap, so there could have been a factor with the snap causing the illness, causing the herb not to work, and needing a replacement herb to kind of replenish his abilities.
I would have liked to have heard that.
Yeah.
That was actually great. I think that's a fantastic way you could have wrapped that up. They could have explained that, because they threw a lot at you. She's like, oh, the herb and this and that, and she's running around the medical lab trying to synthesize. Like, they could have said that. Really, she could have ran through that in 2 seconds, and it would have made a ton of sense. And as we go through this, there are a couple more things where like a little dot of exposition would have gone a really long way, and they just missed it. So, but we'll talk about that. That's a really excellent point, Jari.
Thanks.
Going on to the funeral scene, and me and Jaren were talking about this the other day, and it didn't. I was expecting, after I watched the T'Challa Legends episode on Disney Plus, and I was like, baby, I was like an absolute baby. And I was sitting there thinking, in a way, I was almost looking forward to going to Chadwick Boseman / T'Challa's funeral. I wanted to see that. I wanted to almost like pay my respect. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, it didn't feel how I was expecting it to feel. I don't know why, but I can't quite, but maybe you guys can help me figure out.
So the perspective I got, and, just coming from someone who's taken a very, like, I lost my mother a few years ago. So I went through her funeral, and the perspective I got was from from Queen Ramunda's perspective, where it's just, you're in a haze. Like someone eternally important to you has just been lost. And it's just like, that's why, you saw the dancing really slow, like when they were all in the white and just dancing. And then you see him go up into the ship as kind of like, it's almost like it's like the reverse of the beginning of Black Panther 1, where he shoots down. Out of the ship. Now he's going back up into the ship and then into the sky off, wherever. But like, just how it's all haze and it all just kind of comes at you kind of fast, and like, it's slow and then it's fast and it's disorienting. And that's how loss, especially like really intense, great loss, is like that. So that's to your point there, Andy. That's kind of, I think, what I saw.
Yeah, I agree, because I lost my mom right before pandemic started. So exactly what Monty's saying here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting to be a little bit blown away by his funeral.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. Yeah, well, it wasn't like this huge, extensive thing. I can definitely see what you mean there, but I gotta be honest. Like, I was looking around, all the people around me in the theater, and there's not a dry eye in the house. Not a single, like, even myself, I definitely was like crying. It was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. My son even stood up and did the salute when they all did the salute to him when he was going up on the ship too as well.
Oh, that's wicked.
Cool. That's cool, man.
For me, the opening credits, the Postman Marvel sign got me, and then the very end. But me and Jaren were talking about it the other day. The very, very end, the scenes of him in the other movies, those sort of flash scenes. The funeral didn't do it, but the other bit did. But then, having said that, maybe that's kind of the point, because, and to be fair, to go back onto your point here, Monty and Jaren, I lost my dad and my brother within 11 months. Actually, it was. Which wasn't very nice. And I don't think I actually even grieved for either of them, to be totally honest. Certainly almost didn't have time. And I was trying to change career at the time as well. So that was really difficult. So I can see now, and Shuri didn't grieve for T'Challa either, did she?
Nope.
Because and that was the whole point.
Yeah, she Tony Starked her way through it, you know.
Yeah. And then
threw
she
herself into her work. Yeah.
she grieved at the end. I think I'm now finally getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying in our chat. And the thing I was like, that's when it hit me was the end, because she finally had the time to sit down, to breathe. It took everything in, and she went through the process of burning her ritual gown. And then that's when they had all the flashbacks of Chadwick. And then when the air came out, then it was all kind of boom right there.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I actually made a note of that too, Andy, because I didn't have a chance to greet Chadwick either. It's like I'm saying it like he's like my family member or something, but like when we're actually going through it and I feel myself like visibly start crying, I'm like, wow, like this guy actually really did have an impact on, like, you know, other people's lives, my life, like, and I really enjoyed, you know, what he was able to put out there, you know, him as a man. His other movies are all excellent. You know, go see 42 if you haven't seen 42. Great movie. And, you know, pretty much anything he's in is just worth a watch. And like, I never really gave myself a chance to grieve for Chadwick Boseman, and that all kind of came out. It was very cathartic at the beginning of that movie. So yeah, very powerful opening.
A couple of comments here from the chat. Roxy goes, what a beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Jimmy Cloud goes, I think seeing the trailer multiple times diluted the impact of those scenes. And then
that's
Roxy,
why I purposely didn't watch the trailers, because like they dilute it for me. I think Marvel goes a little overboard with the trailers these days. Like, we don't need 3-4 different trailers for a movie. Like, just do the one, replay that one, and then let's just go in. Because I feel like, you know, especially if you collect the comics, or if you know even a little bit more, or you're up to date on your stuff, you can kind of insinuate a lot of things just from a little trailer, and it can ruin it for you. Like, why you want to do that? Like,
the TV spots leading up to the days ahead got pretty intense on what they were starting to show. So I completely agree.
I shut those out.
Yeah. And then Roxy goes, I couldn't stop crying. I stopped watching the trailer.
Yeah, I hear you. So did I.
Back to you, Andy.
Yeah, no. So yeah, thank you. So moving on from the sort of funeral scene, obviously we then sort of got introduced to this idea of Namor and his people. And I think actually you touched on it in the news, Joe, and we all sort of agreed that whole we was introduced really robustly to him and his people and his land and his history. I saw something the other day. Somebody said, "Oh, his background was rushed or something," and I was like, "Are you kidding?" Like, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it was really well done.
Well, and it goes back 500 years too. So, and something that's been there for a while. So, like, the other side of that coin too is they talk about, like, he's a mutant in this, but they also blame it on the herb itself.
Not the herb, but the vibranium.
Well, vibranium herb, and the fact that it grew in the water.
Yeah. And he says his mother took the herb, and that's the reason why he mutated and was a mutant. And it makes me really wonder: is he really a mutant at that point, or is he a mutate based on?
If you're a mutate, if it's because of something external. But I mean, you saw it more recently than I did. But I think I remember them say. I think he was just a mutant. I don't know if the herb necessarily made him, or you know what it was the fact that his mother took it late into the pregnancy or something.
Yeah, because she didn't want to take it because she was afraid for the baby, and then
that's
she got to the point where she had to.
Which makes sense, because vibranium has a low level of radioactivity to it, you know, which is kind of how the detector, all that thing works, you know.
But he does have some parallels with Blade, though, because Blade getting bit, his mom getting bit while she's pregnant with him,
right?
It caused him to be Blade. So there is some parallels there between the origin of Namor and the origin of Blade.
Yeah, I mean, and they say in this movie that he's like the first of their kind, like, born this way, so he's going to be their king, kind of type of thing. And I
was really impressed with Tenoch Huerta, actually. I thought he was an absolute standout for me, if I'm honest. I think I thought every time
he killed the role.
He totally killed it. And every time he spoke, I was just listening the whole time.
Yeah.
And you know, I think I said it the other week on here, and I can't remember why I brought it up, but I said, if you start whispering talking really quietly. People just listen. And he never boomed, did he? He never shouted. He never projected. He just didn't have to. He just spoke
Right.
really smoothly and really calmly. And everything, even his threats were just even, do you know when the scene when he just killed spoiler, just killed Ramonda, and then
Yeah.
he's standing outside the window and he's just talking, like
Still
Ricky-
talking, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
But his eyes, though.
he's
Yeah,
like,
but this
"Mourn
is
your
my point.
dead."
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is my point. Like, he didn't have to shout. He didn't have to kind of be this big booming person. He just spoke, and you were like, "Yeah, I love
Like-
this guy."
Like Thanos.
Yep.
Yeah,
But you notice two things that kind of got really well comic accurate with him was it seems like the longer he was out of water or in water, he got more kind
Powerful.
of no, not powerful, but his state of mind, his state of being. Like you talk about the Ramonda scene, his facial expression, his eyes, like he almost got more irrational the longer he was out of water or the longer he was in water. And it kind of has that balance of Namor where he has to go back and forth to kind of balance himself. Also, too, the weakness that they got him with about, dehydrating him, take away some of his
Very
power.
comic accurate.
Yeah. So they had some very good comic accurate parallels with him in this movie, which is pretty impressive.
Agreed.
yeah. I think that
Agreed.
talking about when he was in the, if you look at him when he was in the water, everything was very calm and very fluid, and his whole mannerisms when he was obviously in his city, everything was really chilled. When he was out of the water, he was really almost like aggressive and wanted to fight.
Yeah,
And-
they
and
just nailed it. Yeah.
speaking of him fighting as well. Go on, Alex. Sorry.
I was just gonna say the tour of the city that he gave, I thought was like a great scene as well, where he goes
Beautiful.
through and they show like the children playing and stuff. And they show these leftover influences where like I know there's this game that the Aztecs like used to play where they
it
would
looks like
ball-
basketball kind of.
Yeah.
Was
I
like
was
that
thinking
Toluca,
that.
was it like Toluca, the Aztec ball court thing that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that same thought while,
Yeah.
while I was watching that. I was like, that's that Mayan Aztec influence.
and it's so awesome like that they threw that in. It's just like a little subtle thing that it's just like they don't really say anything about it. It's just in the background like it's happening.
right.
And they talk about like how, his people, they've brought their culture, but they've moved all around. And at one point in the film, he is like, "We will not move again," or something like that. So it's just very interesting.
Yeah, they really nailed it with a bunch of like little details. Like another thing was Namor's wings. Like in the Caribbean, there's a fish called the flying fish, right? And the flying fish can fly out of water for a few seconds at a time, whatever. But it's actually flapping its wings. If you look at the way his wings are structured on his beak, they're not bird wings. They're wings like the flying fish wings.
Yep.
Just to go to that level of detail is just like I gotta tip my hat to them, like, because I noticed that and I was like, oh, I caught that immediately, and it was just it was really cool. Really cool to see.
One thing from the chat here, Roxy goes, they didn't mention his father. Maybe he is like Peter Quill. That was a good point because they did not mention the father. So is he, magic, immaculate
Yeah.
or whatever, or is he, who's the father? Was the father playing a role in this? Was the father a
regular
mutant? Was a regular guy, or a jag, just a guy, or was he a mutant or had some kind of abilities as well?
That's a great point.
Or was it one of the gods, like the Aztec Mayan gods, that
Yeah.
could have, like a Zeus type thing, Hercules type,
Or
deal?
the rain god that set them there to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also too, go ahead. No, I say the details too. Just just going through the town, like when he was above water in his refuge area that he wasn't in Telecon, but the hidden area he had. But still, just seeing like the towns going through, and when Nakia went through to find them, to help get them out. All that detail and all that stuff was pretty spot on too, as well, I thought.
Yeah, sure. They really fleshed out his history and his people and his his home. But going back to Namor, still on Namor, in his fighting style, that was a huge standout for me. The way he hopped through the air and the way he took down Wakanda. And I loved. Do you know? I didn't quite understand what Namora meant when she said something like, "We've breached their defenses now. It's over to you." And I was like, I wonder what she meant. And then he showed us exactly what she meant. He basically just single-handedly took out Wakanda.
all those. Yeah, and those ships are like fully made of vibranium and like with all the highest tech weaponry in the world, and he's just falling through them like almost like the Hulk would, really. Like I got strong Hulk vibes, but also like like a more refined Hulk, where he's like, and he's like, I made this analogy to Andy is like a soccer player going down the pitch, like cutting and making little like cuts and jukes, and like he's cutting, turning on a dime, and then cutting back through the ship. But one thing I think was a little bit of a missed opportunity there was, so in the comics, his battle cry is Imperious Rex, right? And he doesn't say like at they show it, I know I'm getting ahead a little bit, but at the end fight scene, as he's about to get knocked out, he says it like kind of half-assed, like that was not the spot to say that.
Yeah.
Like, he should have said that as he's ripping through a Wakandan warship. And like jumping out of the water, like, what's up? Like, that's how,
or
when he killed Ramonda, like he could have said it then and it would have been like, whoa, like him just killing her and being like Imperious Rex.
Yeah. Or on the throne before they attacked.
Yeah.
Underwater when he riled all the Telecons on that throne right there is when he should have done it with the perfect spot.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, it's almost like it would be like if you substituted like, when Captain America's getting beat up and he's like, I can do this all day,
Yeah.
It's like imagine if he said Avengers Assemble.
But now you say that, maybe that kind of was his rally thing, like Caps. That's why they probably did it there when he was getting beat by Shuri. That's when he kind of did that to kind of psych himself back up, to kind of do the same thing as Cap, where I can do this all day. You're not taking me down. Because I think he kind of rope-a-doped her and baited her. And I have a theory I'll share towards at the end about the whole Namor angle in this whole film.
I hope you're right, and we will come back to that in a little while, Jerry. When we attack the end of the movie. Okay, so let's change tune a little bit. Let's move away from Namor because he was awesome. What about Val?
Wait.
You got another Namor thing, Alex.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention we did skip over one thing, and it was the siren call that they would do whenever they would walk people
that was
off
pretty
the
cool.
ship and stuff. That was like such a psychological warfare thing, and they would always attack with it first and start walking people off of like high points, off of ships, whatever, and then they would start attacking.
Yeah, it was like their destabilization technique.
Yeah, because it's a dirty move, man. Because they weren't doing that to soldiers; they were doing that to the Wakandan first responders. Which was another really cool detail that like Wakanda has its own line, ambulance fire, which any obviously advanced city would do. But like the fact that they had the yellow suits on, just like our firemen and our first responders, and then taking them out first and then wreaking havoc right after that, that's like you're going for maximum destruction. Like it's devious.
It kind of reminded me of like those old sea sirens you'd hear about, that on the sea you'd get counter and they would kind of lullaby you to death and that kind of stuff to trap you. That's exactly what it reminded me of when they were doing that.
It was quite Pirates of the Caribbean at some point.
Yeah, and that's why that mining scene where they get on the helicopter and they escape is so powerful, because they think they've gotten away, and out of nowhere he just flies up and grabs it and goes nope, and just throws the helicopter. And you're like, wow, like okay, because like the beauty in this is Namor can attack you by flying, the rest can attack you by sea. Everybody else normally fights by air or land, so it's kind of like it's kind of a little bit different here. Like they never expected enemies to come up out of the water in Wakanda. Like they just didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, like even Wakanda themselves, you mean?
They
didn't expect him to pop up where he did they?
Because they have that scene where they're talking about him like he somehow got in here. We have no clue how, but he swam through the water and got here. And they think he like held his breath for like some extreme amount of time. And they're like, no, he didn't hold his breath. Like he came out of the water. Like
yeah,
so
a huge threat.
Roxy goes about his Namor. I thought the wings was weird, but they did an amazing job. So chat there.
It is a little bit strange, but when like I said, okay, let's change tune. Val turns up.
Yeah,
the head of the CIA.
But did she need to show up?
Just married to Ross too.
Yeah, which is interesting. Well, X to Ross.
Threw that in there.
Yeah.
But what's interesting though is that Ross, that relationship is the surrogate for Fury and Val, because they had a relationship in the comics. Now you have Everett Ross and Val being ex spouses now in the MCU, so they kind of changed that up a little bit in the MCU from the comics.
Yeah.
I can see why she did turn. Oh well, no, not necessarily. I can see why she did turn up, but I can see why they needed someone in the US government or the world's government to be in there to kind of, they were the sort of external threat, weren't they, to Wakanda and the Taliban. But I'm not sure it needed to be Val.
Her being CIA was a little just off to
Yeah.
me. Like, it's just, it felt like I thought either she's on her own organization or she's some super like next level, or at least like Sword, or like some
Something.
organization that's not like, like CIA, like
Like
Yeah.
the Black Book Project, like off the books. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just needing
Yeah.
something that
It felt
nobody
lazy.
knows. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it
yeah,
did feel lazy.
I don't know what they were going for with that, but I didn't.
It also felt lazy with the beads. Like, Wakanda is the most advanced civilization in the world.
Yeah.
One, their beads can be bugged that easily. Two, they couldn't detect their beads being bugged like that. That didn't sit with me well.
Yeah.
No, yeah, me too. Yeah, and it's almost like that didn't need to happen anyway. She could have got that information out of him a different way. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
But do we think? Because I was thinking about this. Do we think that we could replace the Siege storyline in the comics? One of my favorites, where the Thunderbolts attack, or Norman Osborn gets Thunderbolts to attack New Asgard. Do we think we could see something like that happen, but with Wakanda, and with Val leading the Thunderbolts to attack Wakanda?
Yeah.
For Vibranium, yeah. I mean, because she's made it
already
very
said she wanted
clear that her objective is, we need Vibranium. Like, that's her.
She says it in this film. She says something
Yeah.
along the
The
lines
U.S.
of,
wants to
like,
have it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's like, you make it sound like if the U.S. the U.S. should be the only place that has vibranium, and she's
He's like,
oh,
I dream about that
of
every day.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
So speaking of that, do we think that that's going to be the plot for the Thunderbolts, or the other project that that's rumored to happen as well? Because this seems like, I don't know, the team they have in Thunderbolts, I don't see them infiltrating Wakanda the way that team is built. Yeah, maybe Ghost possibly, but
I mean, I feel like all the people on the team are well, not all, but like half the team is on par with Black Panther. Like, definitely U.S. agent could definitely give Black Panther a good go.
They're on par.
Bucky wouldn't do it though.
Well,
Sure.
see, I have a thought there.
Right.
So Bucky could be a Trojan horse to lure Wakandans out, possibly, or to get them in. But with their technology, yeah, you have 3 super soldiers, you have a protocol droid, you have Ghost. With their technology, you think they'll be able to get past Wakanda's defenses? Because so far, the only person able to get into Wakanda with getting past their stuff has been Telecons.
Vision could do it.
Well, they get Vision or White Vision or whoever.
Well,
Vision
Ghost
possibly
could get in and then take down the defenses and then let them in.
Possibly, but I don't know. I think that Thunderbolts possibly could be a setup for the team in some other mission, where I think possibly this could be the plot for Black Panther 3.
Because I'll tell you right now, that iteration of that roster of the Thunderbolts is not attacking New Asgard. They would get mopped.
Yeah,
Absolutely
stomped into the
smashed.
ground.
Like, Valkyrie would take them all out, I think, probably by herself.
And then you add in the fact that they're now allies with Wakanda to protect vibranium and their secret. You bring in Telecom in the mix. There's no way Thunderbolts are going to take those two entities on together.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Yeah. So, but interesting seeing Val nonetheless, and a surprise, which was nice. I mean, whether she would, whether we needed her in there or not, it was still interesting to see her, and it was a surprise. So I wasn't expecting that. So we've spoken about this briefly, but the sort of exchanges, I think, between a lot of the characters, I thought the exchanges between Ramonda and Shuri were really good. I thought the exchanges between M'Baku and Shuri were really good. Ramonda and Okoye.
Yes.
Wow.
That scene.
How good was that? That was amazing.
Yeah, she shut her down, man. She just was like, I lost everything. And well, Queen Ramonda, period. I think she's touching on like a best supporting actress, like Emmy nomination for that role. Like, you felt all of her pain. You felt every bit of her loss. You felt her channeling that and then being a strong, like, woman, queen, leader of Wakanda. Like, it was the most badass thing in the beginning when she marched all those mercenaries
Yes.
into the middle of the UN and was like kneel. And if you notice, she didn't say kneel in English. She said kneel in Wakandan.
Yep.
And they knelt. So like that right there was just like, oh, like they totally indoctrinated, broke them down, got all the information out of them, made them their, I don't want to curse, but and knelt them down in front of them. It was like, this is what you guys actually do. And I thought that was so relevant too, because like in politics now today, you see like, the US and the UK and Israel and all these other countries, China, and they try to act like, oh no, we're the good guys. Oh no, we're the good guys. We're the good. Meanwhile, they're all doing like slimy stuff like that with black ops and all these things behind the scenes. That's how wars fought now. People aren't like lining up in rows and stuff. They're sending the Navy SEALs there, whatever, to go do shady stuff. And like for them to just get caught and like totally just called out, and the way she did it was just so amazing. And she kept that character up. You saw her pain. You saw her love for her daughter. You saw you saw the benevolent woman. She was risking her life.
Yep. Self-sacrifice. Yep.
Sacrificing her life for Riri Williams. Like, just like, what didn't she do?
Angela Bassett killed this film. She did a phenomenal job. I think she was probably one of the best like people for acting in this film, because she just stole every scene she was in.
Because think about that moment where she sacrificed herself to save Riri. They could have ended the conflict right there, because all Namor wanted was to get rid of the person who created the detection device, which first was for precious metals, I think she said, in class she built, and then they took it and made it a vibranium detector. But she could have said, you know what, let the girl drowned, problem solved, conflict over, let's move on. But no, she said, you know what, this girl's important to us. She sees the promise in her. The light she brings out in Shuri as well, with those two interacting. This girl's important. We need to save her.
And she realized how important this girl was to Namor too. And it was like, almost like a screw you, because like, you want to kill her? Well, guess what? I'm going to make sure she lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of the scene that Ramonda had with Okoye, I thought Okoye was good as well. I'm a big fan of Dana Guerrera, and I thought that she had a lot larger role, a lot more important role, I think, in this movie, and I think she's done a great job. And you know me, I'm a big lover of a good hand-to-hand combat scene. I thought the fight that she had with Atuma was exceptional.
Oh, she's just awesome. Like, taking on all those, like she's like, they're super powered, all of them, all the Atlanteans, and she's just, holding her own, taking them down, like, and then like going hand to hand with Atuma. Atuma's no slouch. Atuma takes the throne from Namor and like is, gives him a run for his money regularly in the comics, which I'm sure we'll get to later on in this, his dynamic and how he fits in. But, for her to be able to go blow for blow with him, and then, I see Roxy said she's good at playing the mind games. Absolutely. She's a brilliant general. She's a master strategist. And she definitely, I hate it. I felt it in my heart to see her be stripped of her generalship. Like the one tear coming down with just her trying to keep her composure. Because you could tell she gives everything for that country. Like they even said she pulled a sword on her own husband.
Well, we found out he's still alive. He's in jail.
Yeah,
he's in prison, basically.
That scene with Ramonda and Okoye, for me, that was so. I know I keep repeating myself, but I don't know if I've told you I'm rewatching the Defender saga. For me, that was up there with watching Frank Castle and Matt Murdock talk on that rooftop about their morals, basically. That was fantastic. That exchange between the two of them was amazing. And that exchange between Angela Bassett and Dana Guerrero and there was absolutely top notch.
Yeah.
And then
speaking of that comic, if you haven't, Andy, you should read that comic. Like the way it's written out, it's really well. It's just like the show, but it's written out a little bit different. It's cool.
Okay. And speaking of Okoye taking on the Telecons, Atuma and Namor and that kind of stuff, the Dora Milaje has fought super soldiers pretty well, what we see in the MCU. the Tulakans give her a run for her money. They're like super soldiers on steroids, basically, because they have the healing, they have, you know, the strength, they have all that kind of stuff. So just think how that first battle on the bridge was for her, and then as we get to the end battle with some enhancements.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to operate at the depth, you know, look at the suit that Shuri had to have on to be able to even exist at the depths of water, and Namor's just swimming, you know, no problem. Like,
he says that to her, don't he? He says, the weight of the water will crush every bone in your body.
Your body, yeah.
Or you can wear a suit. We've got
right. So to be able to operate that level, you got to be strong.
The suit they stole from the beginning of the divers that found that vibranium that they stopped at the very beginning, by the way.
Yep.
That was
suit.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that was fun.
Real quick, Roxy goes Oscar for Angela Bassett, which hopefully she does get a nomination nod for this. So,
I think best supporting actress for sure.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
At least the nomination. She got to at least get nominated.
Yeah. What about some of the other supporting characters? So, you know, I know you just touched on it there, Money. So we had Atuma, we had Namora, we had Ayo, we had
Anika.
Yeah, that's it. So we had
I've got a bone to pick about Anika.
Right.
You brought her into this for a reason. In the comics, she trains Dora Milaje, right? Mm-hmm. Where was that with Shuri? Right? Where was some kind of Rocky style montage of them training Shuri, getting Shuri to fight? Because Shuri became from being technology advanced to having some fighting skills with the little hand thing she had on to being a full blown, I can take on Namor. But was Namor really fighting her and he's all out? Or was he roper doping her, testing her? Which again, I have a theory on this that I'll get to. But that seemed like it was a waste, not a waste, but they missed an opportunity with an Anika in the Dora Milaje training Shuri.
So this is what I was talking about earlier in the podcast, where I was saying a little dot of exposition could have gone a long way. If you just even shown a little montage of her training, where like, you know, like there was a time jump. Like they could have talked about that, like, oh, well, you spent the last year training, blah, 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 blah. Like they could have done, there's so many little things that they could have done to explain her being a fighter. But the way it came off in the movie was she takes a heart-shaped herb and now she's Spider-Man mixed with Captain America, mixed with, you know,
her brother,
mixed with Shang-Chi, and just like, it's insane. Like even Spider-Man in all his amazing, because Spider-Man's agility trumps Black Panther. It's not even close, right? And even he like had to like have some practice and experience. Like Spider-Man doesn't just learn how to be a Spider-Man. Like he has to train. But she takes the herb one day, like knocks a mannequin over, and then now she's flipping all over the side of this thing, running, doing all this stuff. Like she's been Black Panther her whole life. Like, nah, son.
Which Shang-Chi trained his whole life.
Yeah. And so did T'Challa. They talked about it. Black Panther 1, there's one part, I think Queen Ramonda says you trained your whole life for this, or either that, or it was either her or it was the king. T'Chaka said, one of them said to T'Challa, you trained your whole life, or you've been trained your whole life for this. Like there's nothing like that for Shuri. Here's Shuri's combat experience. You ready for it? So she gets knocked out with one hit by Killmonger in Black Panther, almost gets killed. She gets knocked out with one kick by Corvus Glaive in Infinity War. And then in Endgame, she runs around and pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
With her Black Panther. That is the depth of Shuri's combat experience. So she went from that to just insane.
The only thing about this the only thing I can think of, and it's Ron Shuri, and Jimmy, he addressed your question there about the fight in Endgame. The only thing I can think of is that when she goes takes the herb and crosses over and meets her, you know, who she saw, you know, spoiler alert, Killmonger. Did something get cut out of that scene? Did she kind of, because you saw there was a parallel between her and Killmonger. Could they explain to say when she went over there that she brought back parts of Killmonger with her, and that could explain the fighting? Because she had some Killmonger ruthlessness in her, and you saw that in her fighting. But then you saw that, you know, later on when she's fighting Namor, when she could have possibly taken him down, which I think he rope-a-dope still. that you saw Queen Ramonda talk to us, remember who you are. So when you cross over with that kind of stuff, do you bring something back with you? That's the only way I can explain any of that
They
right
can,
now.
they can try, but they still didn't though.
Yeah.
Well, and Namor even says that he hears her while he was swimming through the water say that she wants to see the world burn.
Yeah.
So he looks at that as like a point of where he can kind of draw her in and find common ground because he wants to see the world burn to the surface world, you know?
Yep.
Right.
So I think with Shuri there, I think like to the moment she takes the synthesized herb, she almost still isn't convinced after going to the ancestral plane that she has like any sort of abilities until she punches that thing across the room. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, okay. Yeah, now I'm Black Panther, you know, now I actually have these abilities. And I think that goes what you were saying, Monty, about like, it's almost like, yeah, she's not trained or anything, but it's just one of those things like she just realizes, oh shit, I'm strong. Sorry,
Yeah.
cuss, but you
Yeah,
know,
you're fine.
like, but you know, basically, yeah, like she's like, I'm super strong. And all of a sudden she realizes, oh yeah, like, and that's almost kind of like the argument that's made there is because she's taken the herb now, she's qualified to be the Panther, I guess.
Also, speaking of that, did Namor knowingly give her that bracelet knowing that was the key for her to recreate that herb? Because what do you think there? And I'll explain that later too. I'm part of my theory also.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think just going back on the Anika training thing, they could have done a little bit of a Iron Man in the boxing in the ring in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Well, literally just that one scene shows you that Tony
That he's
Stark
been
works
training
on
Yeah.
his fighting skills.
and then you see it later on in Iron Man 3 where he,
And
comes
just-
his way through people. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's just that little bit of exposition
Doesn't
that just
take
makes you
much.
go, oh, he obviously does train and he obviously does work with a trainer and a fighter. And that's
Yeah,
it.
boom.
And you could have
Done
just had,
deal.
you could have opened the door and Anika and Shuri could have been sparring and you could have gone, oh, okay, look, Shuri's been fighting all this time.
Yep.
So
That's
she's
the
some
Rocky
sort
style
of-
montage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There
Which
you go.
I wonder
Well,
what
yeah,
got left on the cutting room floor. You know, did that get cut out?
That's true.
You know?
Let's go straight into the conversation, Joe, because I'm keen to hear on your idea about this. Whether Namor's rope opener, because this is my biggest problem with the film. My biggest problem with the film is I absolutely love Namor. I thought he was awesome all the way through, and I mean awesome. I mean that in the proper sense.
Until the end.
Until the end, and then the end happens, and I went, "Are you kidding?" And then
He just
everyone
gives up.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Yeah, but he was in the desert," and I'm like, "This is a 500-year-old person. Would he have got duped into going into a desert?"
Who
where he
has
knows
wings
he-
on his feet, who could have just flown to the water and jumped in. And,
Exactly, yeah.
and
Right. Yeah.
Like,
once
this was my biggest problem. All of a sudden, I just went, "I'll leave off." Like,
Yeah.
don't. There's no way this 21-year-old tech nerd who's taken steroids an
Yeah.
hour beforehand, and
right.
he's got a suit on, would be able to take on a 500-year-old god, basically. Like, not a chance.
clearly is outclassing her and
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Zarya.
I also, real quick, I also do wonder if she did get trained like T'Challa has, because if you think back to the first Black Panther, remember that Queen Ramonda talked about her in her studies in the first movie, so maybe she has some light training, but that still doesn't make her a match for
Yeah.
Namor.
Also, they wouldn't have trained her because they trained T'Challa because the Black Panther always runs through the male
heir.
patriarchal line.
Yeah.
This is the first time it's run to a female, so it's never gone to. So they wouldn't have had a reason to just randomly make her like. So there's even less reason for her to be as good of a fighter as she is. Like, there's all reason for her to be a genius. You know, like
Yeah.
like I would even have settled for like, you know how Tony Stark in his suit was like, you know, he said, "Oh, I've analyzed all your moves. Like if you ever read Civil War, right? They
Yeah.
could have done something
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my suit analyzes every move every punch you've ever thrown, Cap. You have no chance." And he just beats Cap to a pulp easily.
The other
They
thing
could have done
too,
that.
yeah, she did have AI though, and I wonder if the AI was helping her fight.
Assisting your suit. Say
Yeah,
it. So say
yeah,
that.
but say it too. But also too, they did make a comment about AI being another murder type thing, like Ultron in the movie too as well. I forgot to mention that earlier with her AI. From the chat here, Roxy goes, she was on vengeance. She had nothing to lose, basically, which that can make it. But here's my thing. Okay, I think this whole time this was a test by Namor. Because think about it. They're so isolated on in the ocean, you know, below surface type stuff. they were only drawn out because someone found Wakanda in the ocean, right? They probably have been spying on Wakanda all along. You saw how easy he got in and out of there. They couldn't detect them. He was probably been watching them for years. He probably knew things about, her doing the herb test. That's why he gave her the bracelet to see, if she could rise to the occasion. Think about the kind of the parallels him and her have between each other. The whole movie, even the conversation, him taking her down to Talokan and trusting her with that, all that kind of stuff. I think this was a test by Namor. They want an ally. They need someone on the surface that is on the same level as them that can rise to the occasion with them. So basically, he hadn't. I think he knew the struggle with the herb. That's why he gave her the bracelet. That bracelet was key to his mom, the one that his mom had too as well. It wasn't just a token of friendship or appreciation or, an olive branch. It was for a purpose. Think about his first attack. When he came into Wakanda and they said, it's all yours and he wanted to die, and he basically was going ham on the whole Wakanda thing. He could have easily ended them right there. Why didn't he? He stopped and said, you know what? Take the time to bury your dead and mourn. 5 or 7 days? It's on, like Donkey Kong, basically. Why? Why didn't he? Why did he give him time to prepare her to finish the herb, them to regroup, them to come after them? Like he was drawing them in to see, okay, I gave them a first round knockout punch. Their legs are shaky. They're on the ropes. Can they bounce off the ropes and fight back against me? And then, that was not just him being noble on the battlefield. I think it was a purpose. I think he was playing the long game with Wakanda, because remember the talk between him and Shuri. He's like, if we're found out, if vibranium gets into other hands, all that kind of stuff, they're at danger too. This is self-preservation and having a surface ally that's as good as them, that can also help them in the long game. And basically they passed the test, because think about it. The on the beach when she's getting ready to end, supposedly end him, which I don't think was going to happen. The whole Talakans are on the ship to get ready to end all the Wakandans, right? If she kills him, guess what? This is like war games, right? Global thermonuclear war. If she does kill him, they kill Wakanda. There's zero benefit from either nation right there at that time, if that plays out like that. So basically, it was kind of, they passed the test. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, which his enemy is the people trying to get vibranium, not Wakanda, because they've already have it. Both nations were shaped by vibranium. Think of the parallels there between Wakanda and Talokan. It's pretty much, they're on the same path. So basically, he knows the service war will keep coming. They passed the test. Now they're allies. That painting at the end with him and the Panther, boom. This is all a test to see if they are on the level with Talokan.
So he talks about that at the end, but when he's having with the
Namora
little conversation with Namora. However, I think it wasn't necessarily a premeditated thing. I think he just realized, hey, I didn't mean to kill your mom. I know what it's like to lose my mom. That's what, because Namor lost his mother, and like he's a ruler, and now Shuri's a ruler, and I think he realizes that, like you said, the enemy of my enemy is friend, and he realizes that Wakanda is better as an ally, like, than they are decimated. Like they decimate them, and then they take their vibranium, and then what? They have to keep fighting them, and it's a big thing. Like, better if he can bring them under heel and get them to be on his side. So I think he still was trying to get on them, but to your point, I think as he's getting beat up on the sand, when she was like, yield, I think that was the thought in his head at that point. What you're saying, so, I think that's when he figured that out, was at the moment, not before when he gave her the week. I don't think it was that early.
I agree where I think he didn't mean to kill her mom. I think she was just collateral damage, because honestly, like we said, she didn't have to die. Ramonda was safe. She could have got up in there. She dove down in that hole to get Riri went down that red. Ramonda was safe. He was not trying to kill Queen Ramonda. He was trying to prove a point. And again, he was trying to see if he gives them their best punch, can they rebound and come back? So that's why I think he was playing the long game all along, ever since that leak happened in the beginning, or not the leak, but the vibranium search in the beginning. Because remember, he came to them and said, hey, bring me the girl. He was trying to do a relationship the whole time in this movie. You give me her, the person, blah, blah, blah. He was threatening them, but just threatening them to motivate them, not to actually really take them down. Because again, they could have wiped the floor of Wakanda that first attack.
But nobody outside of Wakanda knows that Namor or his people exist after this film, right?
But
Like
do they? But
there were talks though where they said that there's another player, and nobody ever actually said who that is. Like every time Wakanda was asked, they would say, "We can't tell you." So after this film, like Namor and his people are only known by Wakanda. And you go towards the end and he like says that thing about like, oh, now we have an ally on the surface, and his people are kind of questioning him about that.
Right. Yeah.
But do we not know there's not anyone else that knows about them? That's what
I
I've said in the movie, but we never saw the helicopter. We never saw what happened. Those people could still be alive. We never saw a couple things.
At the beginning of the movie, when they attack the mining vessel, they're mistaken as Wakandans.
Yes, at first they are, but then when Blake Blair's character is in the helicopter, we see him come and crash, but we don't see what happens to them. We're assumed they're dead, right? They're working for the government. Maybe one of them survived. You know, there's other things here we could see that they were bugging Ross, right? The beads, so Val knows something else is going on here. Maybe doesn't know what. So there's some clues here that there's more than just Wakanda at play here.
Yeah, I think things like that needs to be said, though, don't they?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And they could be later on. And they could be later on. Like, remember we thought that Blake Bell's character was tied to Latveria and she was Lucia von Bardis type thing. Could that still come to play later on with Doom? Could there still be a Doom behind the scenes here? Yeah, they scrapped everything because everything changed because of what happened. But I don't know. There's something that seems here that there's more than we know still going on here, because like Val, the whole vibranium thing, right? She's still on that. She knows something else is going on here.
I just find it hard for Namor to be upset about Wakanda stepping out into the world if he attacks a mining vessel and then they're accused of being Wakandans, and it's like almost him entrapping the Wakandans to get the blame there, and then being mad that they revealed themselves to the world.
Exactly.
Like
exactly,
kind of like a weird kind of thing there.
A couple of things in the chat. Roxy agrees with my theory, but she also says that Namor only cared about his people. And then he made her queen for a reason, for Shuri, because I think that means Shuri, which again parallels.
I agree. I think he did mean to kill Ramonda, because he said he makes that point once she's dead. He then looks at Shuri and he goes, "You're queen now." He's your cat, Giovanni.
Yeah.
He goes, "You're the queen now," and he wanted her to be queen because I think he felt like he probably could control her a little bit more. But this is going back to Monty's little bit of exposition again. Now, I like the idea that he was playing Shuri all along. I like the idea that I still want to believe that he could have just turned that fight over at the end if he really wanted to. And that he wasn't duped into going into a desert, and that he was 20 yards from the water.
Or he could have just ran away,
Yeah, he could have just run away, yeah. But I think a little bit of exposition at that end scene, because it was almost like, oh, they're going to say it. They're going to say it. And I was sitting there thinking, there's no way that she's got the better of him. And then he kind of just didn't say it in that little end scene. He kind of did, but didn't. Like, he could have said, I let the girl believe that she, got the better of us. We need these allies, or we need this. He could have just said something like that, and that would have made me then personally go, oh, okay, good. He was in control this whole time. This is Namor we're talking about. He's one of the blooming Illuminati. He is. Look how powerful he is. Like, he can't just get walked over by Shuri like that. I'm sorry, I don't care that she's star of the movie.
When his people are literally about to kill all the Wakandans who are on the ship, I mean, they've got them all cornered,
exactly,
up, and they're all standing there like poking at them with spears, and they're all like, all right, we're about to die.
Listen, realistically, even T'Challa should get by a name.
Yeah.
That shouldn't even be a fight. That should be just a whooping.
Exactly.
It's not close. It shouldn't be close.
In the way they appeared together to stop the fight, saying we're not enemies anymore, we're friends, blah blah blah. Like I said, I think this has been his plan the whole time. Was to find a worthy ally.
Look, guys, let's keep this going, because I know we're restricted on time, and we've got at least one more big thing to talk about before we go on. So I think we're all kind of agreed on that. We're upset about that Namor got beat by Shuri. So anyway, but so the movie finishes, and then we get hit by this big mid-credit scene. What is that gonna mean going forwards? We have got Jarian, well done, you were right.
Yeah,
I've got to say, I kind of like it, and I don't like it. I like it because it gives us. And I didn't like it at first. Then when he said his name was T'Challa, I was like, clever. Like, that is clever.
My Haitian name is Toussaint.
I like that. I thought that was clever. But then I'm sitting there thinking, he's still only like 7. Like, how are they going to?
Actually, he has to be 5, 6 years old.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
Yeah.
they could probably round him up, but yeah, he's going to be 5 or 6 because she said that she left 6 years ago. But okay, it's going to be at least 10 years before we can get an adult T'Challa story. So that's why I worry about it.
So that's where, first of all, it was interesting. They said that T'Challa knew and Queen Ramonda knew, but the Queen Ramonda knew when she went to Haiti to see Nakia before she came back, or did she know the whole time there was a child there? Because you know how she just showed up in Haiti. You know, one thing. Two, I think they could possibly be playing him more on the Young Avengers route.
That's what I think they're going to do is have him on the Young Avengers.
There's a cartoon, Next Avengers, a cartoon movie. I believe it's to my flag as well, where he's on a Young Avengers team. It's Azuri, it's Storm and T'Challa's son, but you can play some parallels there and build out him as a Young Avenger and have him come up through that.
Yeah. I still had an issue with that though, because it means that, you know, because he's 5, right? He's still like, no matter what you do, like you're still talking about probably a decade of stuff.
Unless we get time jumps.
Unless you get another massive time jump. Like, it's going to be a solid decade before we even have a T'Challa again. And that, like, I don't know, that didn't work well for me. But what I did like was they got the I Love Cone, you know, that video. Didn't that kid remind you of him? You so much. I was like, wow, they got the I Love Corn kid blew up. And I realized it wasn't him. But
did you also notice too with them saying, you know, 5-6 years they've been there? That actually proves that Nakia and him were not snapped or the blipped. They were not part of the blip to snap because they were there the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, and she also says that T'Challa had like put plans in place before he had passed to like take care of the child, and didn't want the child like influenced by the throne, which kind of makes me like believe that maybe one day we're gonna get this parallel where he will be like Killmonger and he will go back for the throne, but he'll be like the kind and compassionate ruler,
the anti-Killmonger.
Versus the one that we saw. That's why I think we got Killmonger in this film too, is to kind of remind us like. Shuri sees him and she's like, you know, listening to him say, you got to take care of business. You got to take care of business. Like, that's just how things are. So kind of remind us of him a little bit.
Which side note, you know, it's one thing that I felt was under highlighted that I'm really glad that they made like a nod to it in this movie was how T'Challa in the comics is like the 5th or 6th smartest person in all of Marvel. Like he's absolutely, and they kind of don't speak to that much. He's not dumb at all. But they don't highlight his intelligence like that. But the fact that he was planning ahead like that, and then the fact that Shuri at one point in the movie is like, "Oh, I learned everything I know from my brother," that really I was like, "Oh, thank you know, like they gave him that respect." Because like it was kind of disappointing that they never really leaned on that. Because like if you really read comics, like there's so many times where like they'll be in the middle of the fight and then Black Panther just sit like this, and and then he like figures out the problem and gets through off his intelligence. Meanwhile, everyone's like getting beat up. Like he's really a brilliant mind.
He does do that. He does do that a lot, doesn't he? Actually, now you said that, I never even remembered that, but he does do that a lot. He always sort of sits back and evaluates the situation. Goes, why don't we all do this? And everyone goes, yeah, that's a really good idea.
and that scene where Namor first appears to the Queen and Shuri, I feel like in that moment she's about to reveal to Shuri when Shuri's upset that he has a child.
Yep.
Like there's like almost that
that is what she was about to say something.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she was gonna.
And
because remember she said Ramunda.
Yep. And
so that's exactly what she was gonna say. Yeah, that's exactly what that.
And she's trying to give Shuri like some sort of like, yeah, he's not here, but he lives on still, like kind of like one of those arguments. I feel like, and then Namor just sidelines that whole conversation out of nowhere. And
but very much that whole Shuri's whole attitude though is not one that sort of sits in Wakanda very well, is it? Because they all talk about death not being the end, you know, and she doesn't think
jumping
that.
Off point.
She was sort of saying, no, he's gone, he's not here. That wasn't T'Challa. That wasn't his hand. That was just the wind. You know, she's very logical. Where obviously, you know, the rest of Wakanda is all very much spiritual, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why they even said, do you even believe in the ancestral plane? She was like, no, you know, and then until she actually goes there. So, you know, that's interesting to see her transition throughout that movie into seeing Ramonda at the end when she needed to see her.
The grieving process.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that was just a really interesting movie. And actually, when you look at it like that, that whole movie was just about, well, not just about, but there was a big part of that movie that was about Shuri's lack of grieving and then her opening up to grieving.
So now that we just discussed that, do we think, Monty, you've been a big proponent of recast T'Challa, right? You know, past this movie. Do we think that the way they're handling this now with the Prince and him being T'Challa, we're still going to have T'Challa, you know, it might not be the same T'Challa, but he could be Young Avenger. You know, they could do a time jump. Secret Wars could change some things. But at least now, you know, we're at least could get some reminiscence of the Illuminati with Namor, with T'Challa. We're not going to have Tony Stark, obviously, but Doctor Strange. We could have some resemblance of a Illuminati as well. What are your thoughts on the taking this route?
So from the perspective, I mean, I was very pleased with the movie from the perspective of honoring Chadwick and T'Challa's legacy. I still was not satisfied with the going forward, because as it stands, right? Because you kind of got you can kind of speculate on what they may or might do and time jumps and all these sorts of things, but you know, when it comes down to it, you have to kind of work with what's there right now. What we've got right now is a 5-year-old. Right? So that means, like, barring a bunch of crazy things happening, he's not going to be relevant for like
A
10
decade
years,
at least.
you know, like, and that's them saying, like, that's their, you know, I think that's Marvel very much putting their line in the sand saying, no, we're not recasting him.
Yeah,
the story's over.
Yeah.
You know, conversation's done. You'll get him eventually, but it's going to be a way long time from now. So just out of your head, sure, he's Black Panther. We'll maybe do something else with it, you know, whatever. But like, I don't know, man. For me, it was just, they went through this whole process of like phase 4, like they went and painstakingly created the best possible mechanism to replace characters. And then they were like, nope, not going to use it. You know, like, come on. Like you could have like, I had an alternate kind of way for how this movie goes where, like, you know, Namor and his people are actually from an alternate Earth. And then they attack Wakanda. Wakanda in that reality, maybe their Shuri invented interdimensional travel. You know, maybe the oceans were, you know, being, were being exploited and we're way worse off than they are in our world. And then they had to do that as a desperation move and go on. And then they end up in our world. And then they have this bitter taste in their mouth for humanity, because coming from another world where they see humanity doing the same stuff here. And then, you know, them coming from this other world, like, you know, you could have done that. And then you could have had a situation where, you know, maybe that attack that they launched against Wakanda killed everyone except for T'Challa. So now you have a T'Challa who follows that.
That's what I
like the incursion thing. Yeah, like India.
Right. Exactly what I said. Like, you've
Secret Wars.
You've got, exactly. You've got a world here that has got everything but a T'Challa. And then you've got a T'Challa over here that has got no world.
Yeah.
Black Widow and What If.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. They've already
Exactly.
done it.
Yep.
Yeah,
they
literally could do it.
And that was, and I know it was a cartoon, and I know Natalie Portman. What's her name? Scarlett
Johansson.
I know that Scarlett Johansson hasn't passed away. I know that, but that was really touching, actually. In What If, even in What If, even in a cartoon, I thought that was really touching, and I think it could have just been just as touching in this. And I think that they could have done it where they got somebody who didn't look anything like Chadwick Boseman, so we wasn't confused that they were trying to replace 616 T'Challa. But you know, I think let's stop going on about that now, because I think you're right, Monty. I think that does draw a line in the sand that they're not going to recast that T'Challa. We're not going to get that T'Challa until that boy is he's old enough to be an adult.
But one last thing. What if they could do one of two things? What if they could push time through little T'Challa to make him older, quicker? No, seriously.
I mean, they did it in
in-game. Yeah. So they could push time through him some way to make him older, one way. Two,
they did it to Ant-Man, so
him being they could say something with the herb, him being conceived on the herb. I know this probably happened before with other children with even T'Challa, that makes him age faster, possibly to become older quicker. Maybe, you know, they could do some interesting things here in the MCU to get him, instead of doing time jumps, to push time through him in different ways.
Take some old man Cap's years and give them to him.
Yeah.
You know?
Trade
young
off some
man.
years.
Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine if they
powers? Yeah.
they pushed age through a child? Can you imagine the outrage that would cause?
Yeah.
Like child abuse, outrage.
But we saw with Scott, we saw a baby, we saw adolescent, we
true.
saw an old man.
But
So
that was Scott going to a baby.
Yeah.
That was funny.
No, but he goes older too.
yeah,
Fine, but that's still
does
funny
go
because
older.
he's an adult. But if you
Yeah.
take years away from a 9-year-old child and make him a man so that he can go and fight a war, that's a bit
Shazam.
much.
Shazam.
That's true.
Shazam.
Yeah, that is true. But look, we've got to wrap this up in the next few
Yeah.
minutes. So let's just each of us go through, give a little overview on what we thought about it. I'll go first because I'm on the left of the screen, so I'm going to go first. I enjoyed it. I thought there were some fantastic elements in it. I thought Winston Duke was amazing. I thought Tenoch Huerta was amazing. I thought Angela Bassett was amazing. I want to see more of Tenoch Huerta. I can't wait to see more of him. I thought he was mesmerizing, actually, as Namor. I thought that the set pieces were really well done. I thought the action was excellent. I thought Namor's fighting style was amazing, and I can't wait to see more of that. However, I was, to be honest, hugely disappointed with the way it ended, with Namor seemingly rolling over for Shuri. However, hopefully that can be corrected. But those were my sort of final thoughts on it. And it was a nice tribute to Chadwick. However, I just felt something was missing, but I may think differently about that as time goes on. Monty, what do you think?
Bittersweet is my kind of best one word way to sum it up. I mean, you just had so many, like you had this amazing tribute to Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa, and that legacy. But then you also had, you know, those little things. There's like so many little tweaks that could have made that movie a lot more coherent, a lot more, smooth, and it could have made a lot more thematic and narrative sense. Queen Ramonda dying, that sucks. Like, we don't get her any more now in the MCU, except maybe in like little, scenes in the, when they visit the ancestors after taking the herb or something like that. So she's gone. That's bittersweet. Just a lot of, it was a great movie, but it's maybe top 3 in phase 4, but it's barely, if at all, top 10 of all the Marvel movies. I don't know if I even put it in the top 10 for me. I wanted more, but at the same time, I do understand the fact that, it's not been done before, where a movie loses its main character and then they make the sequel anyway. So I think this is about as good as it could have been done. This is almost as good as it could have been, considering that really major. So,
Alex,
yeah.
Over to you.
So I mean, I really liked this movie. I felt like some of the pacing issues for it for me, though, was the fact that they would take a little bit too long on some things where they didn't really need to take too much length. And then on some things, they really needed to stretch it out and they just made it really short. I think that goes back to what Monty was saying about, like, there's just a few little things where they could have, like, crossed some T's and dot some I's and made this thing look like a little bit better. Overall, I do think it was a really solid movie. Like, I shed some tears for the Chadwick Boseman funeral scene with T'Challa, but I don't know why, but like I was really hit hard by when Queen Ramonda died, and like I was like, whoa, like I did not expect that, like right then, like caught off guard, like, overall, I do think this is a pretty solid film in phase 4. I think it's one of the better phase 4 films in comparison to some things. But yeah, I mean, I would rate this film pretty high, at least probably like an 8 at least,
Cool.
Yeah.
Jorin, over to you.
Couple things in the chat real quick. Roxy, Kevin likes to keep it simple. Good point there, but Jimmy has a really good point here. Remember, there was a lot of delays in filming, so definitely some things were rushed. I never thought they would make this November date successfully because you had Shuri getting hurt. So, there's some things there, but I'm not going to repeat everything you guys said. I pretty much agree with all you guys said. I don't really do the ratings or rankings, that kind of stuff. But for me, I loved it. It hit all the check boxes for me. I think a little bit of nuance in connecting the dots would have gone a long way to make this even better than it was. You know, I'm so glad that we have resolution to how they're going to handle T'Challa. You know, 2 years we've been talking about that, and I'm glad that happened to be a child because I've been saying that. But yeah, just some connections and some nuance would have put this over the top for me. Like for example, the whole Spanish Inquisition, they could have tied Eternals and Telecon right there with that one scene. Since we had that in Eternals. But yeah, I loved it. I'll probably go see it. We'll go see it again. I'm looking forward to what they do next, because the closing thing was the Black Panther will return. Which one, who it will be, and you know, the world building of Wakanda that's Ryan Coogler is in charge of. I'm looking so forward to that.
Yeah, excellent, good stuff. Monty, it was a pleasure having you back on. Thank you for coming on and talking about Black Panther.
Thank you for having me, guys. I love talking about it, and I love talking to you. So
no worries. Thank you very much. And Jonathan's there's just logged on. Hi, Jonathan. You're about 2 hours too late though, I'm afraid. You can catch us back up on where can I catch us, Jared?
The Twitch replay, YouTube, Facebook page, Facebook groups, Twitter as well, or Trovo.
Lovely. And hopefully once we've got it all uploaded on all your audio channels as well. Alex, Jaron, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Monty.
Cheers.
Why don't you tell him about the time we faced two? All right. Well, as